First up, it's time to have a look at this week's featured athletes. Lockie Harkin is no stranger to those of you that have watched the show, but this week he and his training partner Luke McNally take you through a chest training routine with a difference.
Hey, I'm Luke McNally.
Lockie Harkin.
Today we're going to do a little bit of chest training. Both Lockie and I carry a little bit of shoulder injury, so I'll show you guys how we work around that together. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of shoulder injuries. So this really just warms it up and gets the ligaments and the tendons ready to move the weight. So that's the medial delt there. Then we'll roll over and do the anterior. This incorporates the bicep tendon as well.
First up, we're going to start on like an incline cable fly, just to get the blood in there and really stretch the muscles out and really warm up the area that we're going to work. And then from there we'll go onto a dumbbell fly. From then we'll move on to an incline isolateral hammer bench to really isolate the pec.
Then finish up with a bit of higher rep cable crossover.
Yeah, just to really
polish it off and clear out the lactic acid that builds up from the heavier sets. This is just a good exercise for us to get the blood through the chest, but also through the whole shoulder capsule. The cable keeps a constant tension from top to bottom the whole way through the movement. So there's no rest. It's more of a time under tension type movement. We both have a little bit of shoulder injury, so we like to warm things up pretty well before we get into it, pre-exhaust our shoulders, focus a lot on good form, no sloppiness. One more, yeah, try to shoot for 8. Let's go. Yeah, we've both dieted for around 16 weeks leading into a show, and we're a few days post-comp. We're full of a little bit more fluid and a bit more food and
good food.
Yeah, but still in good condition. So we don't. Once again, we're not going to load up too heavy because we're still a bit depleted. So you want to protect yourself from injury at all times whenever you're training, because time out of the gym obviously is going to not do anyone any good.
Reflect on our gains, yeah, so you don't grow when you're injured. Good work. I'm going to move on to some dumbbell flies now, just to step it up a bit.
This is how we sort of train all the time. Around our injuries, it still incorporates our heavier compound movement with a pre-exhausting, so we don't have to load up so heavy and put the joint under the stress. But it's still building our muscle tissue. Anytime you've got an injury, it's important to have a training partner that understands that injury and knows where your range of motion is, basically knows what sort of support they should be giving you. You don't just want to grab someone and go spot me because they might not have any idea of what exactly the reason that they're spotting you is, apart from perhaps to take some of the weight.
We've been training long enough together now, we know each other's limitations, and I know exactly how far I can stretch down.
It's only going to take an extra inch of range of motion that could make that injury reoccur, set yourself back another 3 to 6 months, so we certainly don't want that to happen. This is what you could almost call our rebound time post-show. So we've completely depleted for so many weeks, especially the last few weeks leading into the show. Now's the time our body's extremely anabolic. We take advantage of it by consuming an excess amount of calories and getting back into the gym and
really upping our protein.
But the body's like the sponge at this time. It's going to absorb all the nutrients, all the training, and hopefully rebound with some nice muscle tissue.
Move on to an incline isolateral hammer bench, just to really isolate the pec. We'll do a few working sets on that just to really pump the muscle.
This part of our chest training is more of our meat and potato type of exercise. It's a bit of a heavier compound type movement, but you'll still see that we're concentrating on stretching and squeezing every time. There's still no momentum, as opposed to using a bench press or something and bouncing off. We're just doing this one arm at a time. Basically, it's making sure that both sides of our chest are going to be evenly developed. I normally push with the weaker side first and then just match it with the stronger side without doing any extra reps with the stronger side. Otherwise you can end up with a bit of imbalance through your chest, shoulders, or whatever exercise you're doing. It might be for another body part. But always try to incorporate at least one isolateral movement with each body part. But I'd recommend it for anyone that's doing any kind of training, because it's going to prevent an imbalance developing by bringing in at least one exercise that's an isolateral movement.
Just going to move on to cable crossovers now as our finishing exercise to really get the most of it out of our muscles, get all the lactic acid out of there, and that will be the end of our workout for the day. A bit higher reps too, sort of 20 to 25 reps.
It's all a mind-muscle connection really, so you can scream all you want. Generally you're screaming and ranting and raving because you're lifting more than your body can handle, generally, I feel anyways.
As the off-season goes on, we might get a bit more into it and a bit more aggressive, but we're always still concentrating on moving the weight with the muscle, not so much dropping 200 kilos of weight on us and screaming at the top of our lungs to try and get it off us again. It's only going to risk injury, so we train a bit smarter than that these days.
That's right, yeah.
I did about 30 there. Lockie will have to do 31 or he won't go home.
That's 20, 30, 1, 2.
Good on you. Pretty pumped.
Feeling
Chest
good.
is nice and full.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how we train the chest each week. Not necessarily with the same exercises, but with the same theory. Pre-exhausting, a nice heavier compound movement, and then something to finish off with.
Good work, man.
Go speed.
Yeah.